There have been a few pretty significant changes in my life over the past year, and as a result, my timeline to financial independence has shifted just a bit. At the beginning of the year, I got married, and then immediately afterward, I found out I was pregnant, and 3 weeks ago, I delivered my first baby. So this is my first video since delivering, and I am excited to give you an update on how I'm doing mentally, physically, and financially since having a baby at age 39. So first of all, I guess to address the fact that I guess I'm a little bit older than traditional moms, I guess timelines are irrelevant. And I've never felt better in my life. So I guess that's all I have to say on that, other than I realize that some people might call me a late bloomer in terms of life events. I got married earlier this year at age 39, and I had my first baby also this year. So it's a little bit later than most people would do those things. And I don't love the term late bloomer because as far as I'm concerned, I'd rather have the right thing a little bit later in life than the wrong thing early. So I think it just took me a little bit longer to build the life that I knew I could have. So again, I really feel like I held out for the right thing and it's here. So that's kind of the incredible thing that's happening right now, is this is the life I had been dreaming about. And it's not that I couldn't have had those things earlier, I just have them now and they're exactly as I would have wanted. So that's how it goes, I guess, on a mental side, is just kind of preparing myself and adjusting to the fact that I have these things a little bit later. So mentally, as far as my adjustment has gone, it's been pretty good. But there are just some things that you can't plan for, that you don't know about. So I guess that's as far as timeline goes. As far as the adjustment itself to having a newborn it's a little bit challenging, but I mean, they're all the things that people say. The sleep for me, the lack of sleep has been the biggest thing because I am breastfeeding exclusively, and that means that I'm feeding every 60 to 90 minutes. So I only have a very short window of time to get things done that need to be done in life, just general life admin tasks. And I know the conventional wisdom is to sleep when the baby sleeps, but the baby's sleeping and I'm making a YouTube video or I'm doing things like paperwork for the disability insurance claim so I can get my insurance while I'm on disability leave. I mean, things like this. Doing paperwork for the baby. I mean, there's no shortage of things to be done, including kind of cleaning up, keeping the house, keeping myself together. So there are tons of things to be done, and I'm lucky if I get to sleep when the baby sleeps. Usually I sleep better at night. And it's a challenge to have to yank yourself awake, so you really don't sleep very deeply. People say this stage passes, which, I mean, I'm sure it does. They say new parents average about 3 hours of sleep a night, and that's pretty much what I'm getting. And they're not consecutive, so it's like 20 minutes here, 40 minutes here, 50 minutes here. And so that's kind of how I've been going. So that's definitely the biggest challenge I've been facing mentally. I mean, my husband's been amazing. He's really sort of stepping up and doing things as far as life is concerned. But there's, again, no shortage of things to be done, and it's a lot for just two people. So this is life. And I keep saying, like, teenagers do this, people in the bush do this, so it's not impossible. It's a challenge for everyone. So that's where we are as far as the mental adjustment has gone. Physically, in terms of my health, I'm feeling really good. My recovery is going great. My birth wasn't as I had planned. Let me know if you're interested, and I will post a birth story on the Wallet Life channel. Not what I had intended, but exactly what I needed. And I was very fortunate to have very good care all through. So recovery has been kind of slow and steady. I was surprised at how quickly I felt back to normal. It really only took, I would say, maybe a week, and I was feeling kind of like back to my usual self. 6 weeks is sort of the full length of time that medical professionals say you will need to get back to, I guess, physically, I say 100% physically back to normal limits of functioning. So I feel like I'm tracking on target for that. So So I just put in some notes about things I did during my pregnancy that really helped. I walked 30 minutes every single day. Well, let me say at least 5 days a week. There was 1 week in the first trimester when I was just so nauseous that I couldn't do it. I think I only did 4 days or 3 days of walking a week. And then toward the end, it started to get a little bit challenging to move around. I would say weeks 34 and 35 were a little bit difficult. I delivered at 38 weeks. So toward the end, it was a little bit challenging. But other than that, without fail, I did 5 days of walking for 30 minutes every single day, or 5 days of walking. And that was probably the biggest thing that helped in terms of being able to feel like myself in my body again. I have not done any exercising. I had thought that I would. I have these like physical apps and programs that I was hoping to use right away, but there just hasn't been time to fit in exercise. That has not been a priority as of late. There's always time for what you choose to prioritize, but that has not been a priority as of late. My nutrition has been okay. I'm hungry all the time. I'm thirsty all the time. And it's kind of sometimes I just grab what's in the house, and I try to have veggies and fruit like carrots and celery and are my go-tos just because they're easy to grab and go. But as far as other nutrition goes, I try to have some high quality protein on hand. Comes and goes. Again, it's a hit or miss as far as nutrition goes. But that's how I am physically, and I feel very, very fortunate that that's kind of what happened. I was concerned about gestational diabetes just because diabetes in general runs in my family, and I was also, I tested negative by 3 points. So I did not technically have it, but I was concerned about having a larger baby because of that proclivity. So I really tried to limit or moderate my sugar and make sure I was getting enough protein. And the baby ended up being 7 pounds, 11 ounces. So not a huge baby at all. My sister and I were both 6 pounds, 8 ounces at birth, and my husband's whole family was all around 8 pounds. So I feel like 7-11 was a perfect kind of in between for this baby. So physically feeling really good. So financially, how I'm doing financially is the next and the last, I guess, topic, as this is financial independence geared channel. And I can see how challenging it is. I mean, I knew that before having children and making that decision. I would not change a thing, but it's challenging because not that the kids are expensive, but everything that goes around the kids and you and me and my feelings are expensive. So I am I'm working on still getting the final bills from the hospital as far as how much the delivery cost. Here's a fun thing. So I met my deductible. My deductible was, I think, $1,500. I met that through just through doctor's visits, and I had set aside, I think, the max or just under the max that you could at the beginning of the year for my HSA. Thank God, because I kind of had an inkling. I was hoping that I would get pregnant this year, and I did. And I figured if I didn't, I'd just get LASIK, use that money for LASIK. So luckily, I was saying luckily, but that's I did end up getting pregnant and using the HSA money for doctor's visits. What wasn't covered under the deductible was the cost. So I was in the hospital for, I think, 36 hours. The delivery, we went in on Tuesday night at about 7 p.m. I delivered Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. And then we stayed 2 days. We left Friday morning at 9 a.m. just because we really appreciated the help of the staff. But what wasn't covered under deductible was the room and board for the hospital. So that I think I will be liable for, and it's just under $2,000. So that's a fun thing, because I read somewhere in like a calculator that the average birth in the U.S. costs about $10,000. The average vaginal birth costs $10,000, and I'm like, okay, my deductible is $1,500. So am I only going to pay $1,500? And I'm like, let's see how they get around. Let's see how that doesn't happen. So, yeah, room and board at the hospital. It doesn't look like it was covered fully by insurance. So we'll see what happens with that. I wanted to let it settle out though as well. So that's one thing as far as just the cost of the delivery itself. Baby stuff, and now there are ways to do it, to buy baby things cheaply. I have a couple of videos on how I budgeted for the baby and how I'm trying to save versus splurge. And a challenge because the way that I thought I was going to be is different from the way that I actually am. And things that I thought I would be able to do without, I'm like, oh, I kind of would like to have that. And so one of the areas I saved was in the area of clothes. And that's something else that I fully intend, like I do for myself, to thrift and bargain hunt and do things like that for the kiddo. But I'm like, I had 5 onesies and like 3 outfits. She doesn't fit into the outfits. And so far I've just been putting the baby in those 5 onesies, and I'm like, aw, kind of look, not home. Baby doesn't look homeless, but I'm like, I kind of would like some clothes, which that's an area that I can kind of rein myself in on. But other things, as far as like a bouncy seat, like I love a bouncy seat that I can put the baby in when I'm off doing other things. So something different from the bed, little things. So I'd say overall financially, I can see how this turns into a black hole. Kids, and it's not the kids, it's my own spending habits. So that's something that kind of perpetuate that spending. So the hospital stay, baby stuff, because I'm on maternity leave at work, that's a whole separate issue as far as maternity leave goes. Because the way that my workplace runs it and the way that my state does it is that we have a short-term disability coverage through work, and then we have the state disability coverage, and depending on the state, depending on your situation, one or the other ends up paying more. And the short-term disability said immediately, oh no, the state will cover it because they cover more. The state is taking forever to process the claim, and they are the least efficient process. The short-term disability, I filed it one day, it was like approved and done the next. So they're gonna cover like 10% or whatever the state doesn't cover as far as my salary goes, because you get up to 80% of your salary. So that's been one giant maze to untangle, and just very confusing. I found it a little bit convoluted for my situation. I'm just like, okay. Dealing with it one day at a time, having to kind of wait on hold for 3 hours while I to speak to an actual person on the state. It took me 3 days and 3 hours to get through because the telephone tree would take away the option to speak to a person. There was just no option to speak to an operator, and I guess that's when they get overwhelmed with claims, which I'm sure that they have a lot of to manage. So as far as taking disability goes, it was not an easy process. It is not an easy process. It's still not approved. So that's how that's going. So again, actual delivery, stuff for the baby, my work, maternity leave, and then, long-term savings for the baby, opening a 529. That's, again, something we're in the process of. We just got the baby's Social Security card, so that's exciting. And I can actually hear the baby in the other room. Waking up, wonderful. Nap time was 48 minutes today. That's something else that I'm kind of is challenging to work on, is the lack of schedule. Because newborns do what they want to do. They know no schedule. Adults have a schedule. Hence the clash. This is what my father-in-law sent my husband. I'm like, yes, that is a clash. It's very, yes, correct. So I'm finding myself having to really impose a schedule on myself, and as much as possible on the baby. I'm following the Moms on Call method, and they have a really good daily schedule that, again, I'm trying to stick to as much as possible. It's just how it goes. So overall, that's how it's going. And I guess financially, I also feel like my drive to earn more and increase my income is higher, but my capacity to do things is much lower. So I'm really finding myself having to be very efficient with the time I have. And that's what it is. And that's what it's always been. It's just even more important now. So that's how I'm doing so far after having a baby at age 39. That's where we are. So thank you so much if you've watched this far. Thank you for following my journey. I am aiming to post my August budget wrap up. And since we're almost at the end of September, I'll be working on a September budget wrap up as well. And any other topics that might come up as well. I have one more video that I pre-recorded that I hope to release next week. on my 5-year plan, how that's going. So if you're interested in that, it will be coming out shortly, or if it's not out already. So again, thank you so much for watching and following my journey. I hope you'll keep watching. Bye.